Hi everyone. So I just wanted to do a quick video today to share with you a little trick I use on Elementor containers when I'm after a design like this one here. So you can see here, this hero, it's using full width containers, but it's staying in line with content width containers when it needs to. So basically the text here and the edge of this dark overlay box. So generally I use 1120 pixels for content width containers. You can see here it's 1120 pixels, and then hopefully you can see in this red dotted line here it matches up with the edge of the overlay box, and then the left hand side matches up with the text here. So on a content width container we've got both our margins set here, and we can calculate these margins basically so that when we use full width containers like this one here, we can keep the design consistent and put, for example, here I've used some padding that matches the margin here of this container, and then I've used margin here to push this container inwards, and it's all consistent. So basically it works off this concept I'll show you here in Excel, whereby you've got your mobile, which may be set to 90% content width. In fact, what I'll do is I'll show you that first. So we've got the site settings here. These are the layout settings that I've used for this. So this is quite important because it all depends on this figure here basically. This will vary depending on what your content width is. So content width for desktop I've set to 1120. Content width for laptops I've changed to a percentage, so that's now 80%, 85% and 90%. So for these three screen sizes, it's quite easy to understand what's going on with the margins, because this is where I'll now show you the Excel sheet. We've got for laptop, for mobile, if it's 90% the content width, the margins to add up to 100%, they're just going to be 5%, 90 add 5 add 5, 100. And it's the same sort of concept for tablet and laptop. You'll have your content widths in the middle, which are 85% and 80%. The other settings I've used just for this example. And then so long as it adds up to 100, both your margins, 7.5, 7.5, add 85, you'll get to your full width, 100%. Same with laptop, 80, 10, 10, 100%. This is where it gets interesting, because on your desktop, we don't work off percentages, or I haven't in this example. We stick with the 1120 pixel width, no matter what, sort of how much you stretch your screen until obviously you hit a laptop size. But no matter how much you move the screen, this will stick as 1120, and only these two margins will change. And this is a calculation that tells you what these margins will be, and this is what you can use on a full width container to manipulate a full width container, so you can create a design like the one I've shown you, where it sort of stretches across into what would be the margin. So it's 100% of the entire screen, take away the middle, so take away 120 pixels, and then that'll give you the width for both these together. You only want one of them, so divide it by 2, and then you've got the width of one side. And this is what we can use on our container padding and margins. So yeah, if you think about it, if you use this formula for a laptop, for example, it'd be 100% minus 80% would leave you with 20% in the brackets. Divide that by 2, you get your 10% either side. So that's why it works for desktop. So it'd be easier to show you rather than explain, to be honest. So if I go back to this, I'll basically now rebuild this hero section, and hopefully you'll be able to understand how I've used the calculation, how it works. So go back to pages, a new page, edit with Elementor. So we'll start with the container, the main container. here. So this one, I tend to rename my containers pretty quickly, so it's quite easy to follow. So this we want as a full width container. We want it a horizontal container. And then within here, we also want the container that will have all our content within it and the overlay. So hero content. So in our hero content container, straight away we'll have to make that full width as well. We'll give it the background overlay. We'll go black. So I've already set up global fonts and global colors just for ease of build here, which I'd highly recommend you also do. So within this container, we've got two headers, heading. We've also got a button, yep. And then this heading is actually a subheading, and it's white. This heading is title 1, also white. I've just got some filler text to add here. So we'll go back to the original hero container now and start styling this one up. So it'll be a bit easier to see what's going on. So we need the background image. Just a random stock image here. And then we want to change this image, make sure it's center and cover. And now let's go into our advanced settings and start adding some padding. Okay. So we want rem. I tend to work in rem. 6.5. 6.5 we'll go for desktop. We'll go 5 rem. I like to make it responsive during the build as well, so I don't need to come back and do a lot of messing around with responsivity because that is painful. Mobile, I'll go 3 rem, top and bottom. So you can see it's starting to take shape here. So that's mobile, that's tablet, laptop, desktop. Obviously the problem currently, we haven't got our spacings set up for the inner hero content. So how do we do this then? Going back to mobile, well, I think we'll start on mobile because, like I say, in the Excel sheet, I'll just show you the sheet again. It's quite easy to understand how it works with a content width of 90. You've just got 5% either side for your margins or paddings. Same with tablet and laptop. It's when we come to desktop where it gets interesting. So, in fact, no, we'll start on the desktop. We'll start with the good stuff. So desktop, what do we want here? We want to give this padding on every side. So on the left hand side, sorry, at the top, bottom and right, we just want it to be the same, but it's on the left where we'd want it to line up. We want the text to line up with any content width containers below it on the page. So I'll go into padding and we'll click the pencil because we want different sort of values for a few of these. So starting with the padding, what we want is 6.5 rem. If I had 6.5 rem everywhere, it looks better already, but the left hand side hasn't been set up correctly with our calculation. So if we unlink that, and I'll just copy in the calculator, in fact I'll type it in, test my memory. So the left is going to be calc, 2 brackets, because we want 100% width of the page, minus 1120 pixels So we get the width of both margins. Obviously now it's padding, it's not margin. I'm doing it as padding, which means we can see the background overlay, the dark background overlay of 0.6. We'll be able to see that on the left because it's padding and not margin. And we divide this by 2. Once you've put your closing bracket in, you'll see it'll take shape. So now this left padding is using this calculation, which means it will be in line with any content width containers lower down the page. Similarly, we want to use this as a margin on the right, so it'll go here and create that space. So if we unlink this, put the pencil and add it as a right margin, there you go, that's the margin we're after. So that's complete on desktop. So next up we'll go laptop. Laptop, same sort of concept, except now it's less complicated because we're not using a calculation anymore, because the content width for a laptop is 80%. It's not 1120 pixels. So 80%, we know that either side is 10% to make it up to 100. So if I go back to the pencil, and for padding, we'll use 5 rem this time. Might as well link them to fill this in. So 5 rem. But then on the left, we don't want 5 rem. We want 10% instead of the calculation. So 10% here instead of the calculation. We're using this 10%. Oh, right. Let's go back. So because we've used 10% now, it'll stay in line with content widths, but it means we also need to tweak the margin to also be 10% on the right. So that's that's set up now for laptop. Tablet, what we want to do is we want to now extend this inner container to be the full width of the page, because it's getting quite narrow now, so there's not much point. I think it looks better not to have a little gap here now, and we might as well extend it to the full page. So margin, you can now just unlink them and it will automatically set them to 0. That's good. We want it to just be full width now. Padding, we still need to work with. So padding, I think we'll stick with 5 rem. 5 rem. But this time, we want the left and the right to use the percentages in order to keep this in line. So for the right, we'll use 7.5% because we know that for tablet portrait, the content width is 85%. So we'll use left and right as 7.5% to bring in that content 85% in the center. Yeah. And then finally, mobile, we'll just knock it down to left and right to 5% from 7.5. We'll also make it 3 rem instead of 5. It's slightly smaller. So 3 rem and 5% left and right. So there you go. That's it sorted now. And to prove it's worked, what I'll do is I'll go back to desktop and I'll add in a Flexbox, and I'll add another one inside of it, and a new container. We'll give it a height of 200 so you can see it. And what we'll do is we'll give it the orange background accent. We'll publish it and view it. So now what you can see, if I get the measure out, you can see it's all in line, both left and right. If we inspect it and resize it, it'll stay in line. And now we're down to laptop screen size where it's 10%, still in line. Now we'll get to tablet where it's gone full width, and now instead of the edge of the box, the edge of this being in line with the content width box, you've got the text within it which is in line. So if I click on this, you can now see it sits in line. And again, on mobile, it'll go from 7.5% to 5% margin down each side. Same up here. You can see that here. It's using 5%. So this is quite a powerful little trick because it means you don't need to nest a lot of containers to achieve certain designs. So for example, this page, I've extended it here. This is sort of been built on. And down here, this section here, if you look at it, this is a full width section with a menu in it on the right hand side. And on the left, we've got that consistent spacing of a content width container. So if I get the measure tool out, this download section is 1120 pixels wide. And this section here, it uses padding on the left using the calculation here to fit in line with content width sections below it. When everything, this whole section is a full width container. So this full width container is actually made up of this one here that uses the calculation for the padding on the left. And then this is just a set width container of 450 pixels. And I've done that 450 to match up here. And this particular example, I've given 450 margin on the right because I know below it there's a 450 width container. So it's in line with this margin. So another example which shows how you can use the calculation to actually put things into this space rather than just using it as padding or margin is on my website, where I've used the calculation to set the width of a container. So this here on the left is a container that's set to the width of the margin of a content width container. So it's set to 308 by using the calculation. And it means you can put stuff in it. In this occasion, I've put in a little tracker that follows down the page. And it essentially, this whole section, this Our Work section, is a full width container that still follows the consistency of a content width container, as you can see here. So that's just a couple of examples on how you can use this and how it's quite powerful, because it means you don't need to nest a lot of elements in this sort of situation, or if you are nesting containers, it keeps them consistent with any boxed containers you're using. So you can sort of mix it up as a combination of boxed and full width containers. So I hope that's helped, and yeah, see you next time.